Goblin Pet.
Oh, no.
Why?
Oh, dear.
Hello, Exiles. Welcome to the first of our Dev Interview videos. I'm
The
Evan.
first?
I make trailers and other marketing bits here at Grinding Gear. We're starting this series because we want to give you some insight.
Ah, it's gonna be a series. Oh yes. Ooh. You know, that's the stuff why people like GGG so much. This is great. Love it. Please. Yes. Can't wait for the next one.
Into who our devs actually are behind the Mark and Jonathan of it all. We've done written interviews before, but nothing beats a good chat. Today, Kane is the first brave soul to appear on camera. You might have seen Kane at ExileCon, where he talked about audio design in Path of Exile 2. So, what do you do at GGG?
Okay, hang on. So if I'm gonna do that, do I really need to go through a run through of like how I started as a sound designer? Does that sound lame?
No, it's cool.
Okay, all right, do it again.
Sure, okay.
Sorry.
You're off to a good start.
Well, it is a good question, isn't it? I started here many moons ago as a sound designer, sort of worked my way from there to leading the audio team, getting more involved in dialogue, and then became audio director. And in recent times, I've also taken on narrative and building that out as a department because, you know, for PoE, narrative's not really been a department as such. It's been a thing that's there and it happens. You know, there's people around, they make it happen. But now we're like actually trying to redefine what the story and narrative parts of PoE are in a way that doesn't hinder gameplay and actually just feels complementary, something that you can digest and understand. So, you know, like the boss fights, we try and pump as much narrative into those as now too, like the Geonor slam poetry, bit of that. That was pretty cool.
Have I ever said how much I hate this fight? Because I do hate this fight. I really, really do. Because I never have enough damage to just nuke. Oh wait, that's not wrong. With the mercenary I had a lot of damage and just nuked them. But everything else I just had problems. And the same goes with the resistances, the code resistances. It's horrible.
Our enemy endured, but soon all were devoured.
How long did it take you to go
By the way, the part with the cloud and the wolf ads, that's the worst part of the entire fight.
from starting to just being the director of all of it?
I think it's like 7 years now,
7 years.
something like that.
So you've been here a while. What's special about Path of Exile for you?
What's special about Path of Exile is also special about GGG, is that, you know, we kind of work at breakneck speeds, pivoting whenever we need to make sure we're doing the right thing for the moment, you know, like what players are thinking.
So
It's good.
you're reading reviews and you're pivoting, reading forums, Reddit?
Yeah, or just like someone comes up with a cool idea, and in larger companies that might be hard to pivot, so hard to make that work because you've got X number of dependencies on what you're doing and sticking to that. Whereas
Which is a really, 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 really big problem. Not only in big companies, but also governments. That shit fucks everything up. That no one can just, you know, make a decision and everything is good. No, it has to go through 10 instances of 10 people that all have a say in it, and it just doesn't work. It just bloat.
we're like, nah, let's do it. It also has moments of stress and chaos, but that is part of the fun and mitigating that.
As an aside, I think I finally understand why everyone sits on these chairs like this. Because they're so deep. You can't sit up because it would look weird. You can't just sit back because
Yeah,
it looks
well,
weird. You have to...
Am I slouching? Probably.
Most recently, your team put a lot of love into the Mercenaries of Trathis. Were they as fun to make as I imagine?
Yes. That was, that was fun. It was like, what started off as the league will be based
That was
around
easy.
mercenaries. You get a mercenary, you hire one, you'll run around with them. And then we sort of suggested the Trathis thing. It's like a place we haven't learned too much about. So we got to do that completely, starting with the, we knew we needed some mercenary personalities. And coming up with a bunch of interesting personalities is difficult. Like, you get to a point where you struggle to come up with the next one.
And that point can come up very soon. That's coming up very, very quick. It's not hard to get stuck with things like that. It's actually very easy.
And someone posted on Twitter about one of the ambusher ones, because he just kind of speaks gibberish.
Yeah, that guy.
And it was literally like we were just getting tired of trying to come up, and we just like wrote any old crap on there, and hang on, let's do that.
Just mash the keyboard.
So that was fun. But no, it was fun, and we sort of developed a whole like house family system of Trathans, like the idea being the Eternal Empire way back when were casting out their worst criminals, sending them to a place essentially to die, right? But when they got there, instead, they did very well for themselves and sort of assembled these houses and families of death trades. So, it's like
That's
Australia,
interesting.
right?
Mercenary.
The funny thing here is that can actually lead up to more content. They have created extra lore for the mercenaries, and yeah, now you have more lore you can explore for more content. Oh man, I can't tell you how much I wanna see the mercenaries in Path of Exile 2. I really, really hope they stick to their, Path of Exile 1 and 2 gonna have the same leaks. I really hope they stick to that. What they said about 6 years ago. Or no, 7, I don't know. I hope they stick to that. Because then the next PoE 2 leak will be so good. That's gonna be so amazing. I can't wait for it.
Of Trathis is Australia.
Yeah, it's just
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And they're all Australians. Why didn't we give them Australian accents?
Oh, we didn't want to be too blatant with it. No, I'm just kidding. We have Australians on the team. It was just an in-joke.
Cool. On to the important questions.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Goblin Pet.
Oh,
What?
no.
Why?
Oh, dear. Well, look, we have an issue system, right? An issue tracking system, like a job system. And I get an issue for this pet that's going to, like, be a band pet and sing and stuff.
Oh,
So I'm like, cool, well, I'll make that as good as I can. And I was at home and I just had Mike and I did some scat goblin vocal stuff, right? Thinking nothing of it. And Camille and Michael, music guys, got involved and added the music part, and we developed, oh, shit, this is quite cool. Great, happy with that. Now, like, my voice is the most hated thing in the fucking game.
that was good.
It's not my fault. I didn't
That's
come
so
up with
great.
the idea, but I gotta own that.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
You've left
We-
your mark where
yeah.
it matters.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
it's kind of fun at the same time.
It's pretty
Like,
fun.
I muted my microphone. It's stuff like that the developers talking about things like that gives soul to the game for the community, which seems to be the exact opposite of what the Diablo developers doing. But we're gonna watch the campfire later. I heard it was bad. I've seen some clips, and it's not good.
Pivoting to Path of Exile 2, Has it been very different working on that? Because we've been here working on Path of Exile 1, now 2.
Well, yeah, I've kind of been working on PoE 2 most of the time I've been here, funnily enough. And it's still not out. No. I mean, that
Still
is
not
the
out,
nature of
but
making
kind of.
a whole new thing and pushing. I mean, it is enjoyable to work on, 100%. Like every time, working on PoE 1 is familiar, and I wouldn't say it's easy, and we still try and push ourselves, but there is a certain expectation on PoE 2 that it just makes everything a little bit more time consuming to create. Yeah, we push ourselves
Yeah, I can
on
get
the
that.
narrative side, the story side, and dialogue. Obviously, like the player characters are all talking throughout, trying to give them more personality, which was it's a hard thing to find the balance of when they should shut up and when they should talk. But
How do you find that balance? Because that's such an interesting.
Well, I don't
problem
even
in
know if
video
we have
games.
yet. So some people, it is hard because through the campaign, it's interesting. At endgame, if they're constantly yapping about currency and, there are things to iron out. But that's the beauty of early access and figuring it out. I don't know, do I seem like me? Or do I seem like a stuck-up version of me? Man, it's hard.
Pretty consistent with how you were at ExileCon.
So fat?
Pretty consistent.
Fuck you, bro. Fuck you.
That's going in. That's going.
It's pretty.
What's the best sound from anything? Like your favorite sound? Take your time. We can edit it to make it look like you replied just like that.
Star Wars, right? Like, pick something, any moment in Star Wars, and there's like so many iconic sounds that you just.
From the old movies. And, oh god, I'm so old. And with the old movies, I mean, episode 4 to 7. And yes, I know, today, episode 1 to 3 also count as old. Because they're over 20 years old. Oh Jesus, I'm so old. But yeah, but the new stuff in Star Wars, I mean, they're just reusing sound from the old movies and copying it, the style. That's all it is.
How did they do that? That's true.
Ben Burt, man. He's just a wizard. The lightsabers, it was all like in-world, real-world stuff, not conjured. That's pretty cool.
Do you do much of that here? Like,
Dom and Dominic on the skills side and Michael on the music side, they've got all Eurorack sort of stuff that they use to synthesize sounds. But
Hi, how's it going? This is where I make my sounds.
Oh Jesus, do you see that? That over here? That looks very complicated. And I wouldn't want to try to figure out how these things work and what they do and all that stuff. Way too complicated for me. Well, not too complicated, but way too much to do. I would get frustrated so fast.
Behind me, you'll see my Eurorack modular synth. This is where I make.
otherwise, we do some recording of Foley and bits and pieces. For the Karui stuff, we're doing some recordings of local instruments and, yeah, we try.
Sure.
we
I
recorded
mean, they have to.
Kapahaka group.
We did.
Ago,
We
which we
recorded-
haven't showed footage of, but we could do that now.
We could do that.
A little
We
bit.
could do that. We had them in a hall and everyone was just going for it. Doing all sorts of things for Trial of the Ancestors, so that will obviously carry over into other Karui stuff. So we're trying to do more of that.
Do you have a favorite thing you've worked on so far? PoE 2?
I suppose in general, just in PoE 2, building up ambiences and the overall world building we can bring with sound and character dialogue, NPCs, monsters, all sorts of stuff, like how that contributes to making it feel like a world and a place.
Slavery will not be necessary when the dreamer awakes.
And, like I mentioned earlier, the
Well-
Geonor.
Fun fact: that weren't actually slaves. For the ones who don't know, they are undead.
slam poetry. That's an example that I'm proud of, where we kind of got that happening. You know, like it's complementary to gameplay. The combat's still happening, but it's just sort of there. And it wasn't actually planned. It was just something that I was trying last minute with the actor when we were reworking some parts of his vocal in the fight.
Are all audio designers just
Nice,
musicians that
little
need more
detail.
money for gear?
Yes.
Cool.
It's it's an obsession. Like, if I have better gear, my sound will be better, and it's not true. Don't tell. No, just go along with them. Like,
Don't tell Dominic.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like, yeah, nice. If you see if he's got another module on his Euro rack, if you said to him, "Wow, nice new module," he'd probably cry with joy, like, for being validated.
Swishes and swoops. Makes lots of noisy sounds. Explosions, swishes, tonal bells, and evil drones. Anything that you could imagine, you can create here. With these patch cables.
Do you have any cool tidbits or like spoilers or things you can tell us about what you're working on, maybe? Sanctioned?
Well, I don't know if I can share it, but we'll try. We, historically, PoE 1, you're running around, you're talking to an NPC, and they do the scrolling monologue of what they have to say to you, which, is fine. That is an approach. But I wanted it to be a more back and forth conversation between NPCs and the player character, so that you get a more unique experience on a character per class of how they interact with the NPCs and what they think of what they're saying. And
It makes a lot of sense, because the PCs are some of the most interesting characters in the game.
Yeah, I
Everyone
mean,
wants to know
What he said sounds very interesting. And I like it. I mean, when I play PoE 2 and hear the dialogue, I like it. It's good. It's really good.
who they're playing.
the characters in town are cool, but they're cooler if you involve the player character and what they think, and then you get that, because some of the player characters
He's
are a bit
right.
deranged, like the witch. So
Yeah,
her
their
being
little
able to-
judgments and their little... Yeah,
her being
yeah.
able to have a conversation with wholesome Renly is just going to be fun. It is worth noting. You may think, oh gosh, I will have to skip even more dialogue. Well, no, because the NPCs will naturally have a bit less to say because they're not monologuing everything. You have a more engaging conversation about things, which is generally a bit shorter and concise, but more interesting. So it's actually in the testing we've done, it feels really good, and maybe we can even show a little prototype. I don't know.
At least not till our ancestors took in the Val. And folks still bicker over whether that were a mistake.
I've no love for the Val, but if not for their virtue gems, our village would be a smouldering ruin right now.
Aye, and you'd have died in Asmiri rather than an outcast.
You think that preferable?
Favorite game soundtrack or audio that isn't ours?
Oh my god. I mean, I feel obliged to say Diablo 2, but
Really?
a little bit. I mean, it is cool. I mean, actually, I'm a big Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9 nerd.
Oh
Those
my
were
god.
my games.
Is
when I
that
was a kid.
heresy?
The Final Fantasy 7 soundtrack was pretty sick.
We can't play that for copyright reasons.
Nah, but
I'll believe
it's good. Look it up.
Just look it up.
Look it up, kids.
How did you end up working in the audio world? What was your path to get here?
Since high school, I'd been in rock bands and things.
Well, that's interesting. That's something I wouldn't have expected. That's nice.
Doing, playing.
But
heavy
it
metal
wasn't
music.
him, was it?
Yeah, and through that, I studied audio engineering, and I worked in recording studios, recording bands here and abroad. But I'd always been a gamer, and I'd always loved that part of it. And for some time, I'd wanted to get into game audio, and there wasn't really an opportunity. But classic New Zealand, you know someone who knows someone, that whole thing. And I heard of a job at GGG, And at that time, there was only one other guy here, right? So,
Oh,
and I was determined. You know, I'm getting an interview no matter what. Like, that has to happen. And I don't know how it would go these days, but I somehow got Eric's email and was just like spamming him directly, like day after day, until he gave me an interview. And it was good. He was very relaxed, wearing socks only, and I mean, and shorts. I mean, just no shoes, you know, not just socks.
Very formal.
Socks,
Yeah.
shorts, t-shirt, right? Was still
What were you dressing?
acceptable. I was like this, you know. I like dressing up to come to work. Anyway, but he was very, very serious and but cool, and the studio seemed cool and exciting, and yeah, I was lucky enough to get in.
What is your favorite band?
oh,
My favorite band is probably, I'm old, you know, so I like old school metal, like not even super heavy, just like 80s, like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath. And, you know, back in the day when I was in a band, we got to play with Ozzy Osbourne, so that was pretty cool. That's my claim to fame.
Nice.
I got to shake his hand and say thank you, and he said something incoherent and walked away. That was fun.
My final question is related to that. Would you be mad if we posted a link to your music video from 14 years ago?
I mean, no.
oh no. So it wasn't. It wasn't.
It's so annoying, you know. Like last night, I'm looking at the questions and I'm thinking to myself, oh, you know, I have this talk like that and I'll say this thing and I'm all this like fun guy, and then I get here and I'm not. What is that? What is that? It's the real fucking corporate shill. What am I now? Just a fucking loser. 40-year-old loser.
It's good. That's we got to open. Yeah, we got to open with that.
You know, that's the guys in music. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm corporate now. They never really changed. They're just getting funny about, you know, how they have changed.
Yeah, there is something about being in front of the cameras that, like,
Yeah, you just start saying stuff. You don't talk like this.
no.
Fucking.
Like, imagine if I did Build of the Week in my normal voice. Welcome to Build of the Week. I'm Eben from Grinding Games.
Welcome to Build of the Week.
Bit of the
Right.
week.
Thank you very much, Kane, for joining
Thank you.
us.
Thanks.
Downstairs. two flights down
Yeah,
from your office.
yeah. Back to the grind.
Back to the grind. Making
Thanks.
more goblins.
Back to being a goblin, I will guess. That was interesting.